Thanksgiving had always been a time of warmth, laughter, and togetherness in our home. The scent of roasted turkey, the rich aroma of spiced cider, and the comforting sound of family chatter usually made the day feel special. But this year, the air carried something else, something cold, something bitter. That something was my wife, Claire. For months she had been distant, offering me nothing more than mechanical smiles and half-hearted conversations. Intimacy had become a foreign concept between us. When she touched me, it felt rehearsed, forced, like she was merely going through the motions. Gone were the passionate nights, the stolen kisses in the hallway, the way her body used to melt against mine. I had convinced myself it was just a phase, but deep down, I knew better. Our house buzzed with energy as guests arrived, filling the living room with cheerful voices and clinking glasses. Jake, my best friend since college, clapped a hand on my shoulder. "You good, man? You look like you've seen a ghost." Forcing a chuckle, I shook my head. "Just the usual holiday stress." Jake studied me for a moment before nodding. "If you say so." Claire entered the room, her presence commanding attention. She wore a dress that hugged her curves in a way I hadn't seen in months, her dark hair falling in effortless waves over her shoulders. For a moment, I forgot the tension between us, forgot the gnawing doubt that had been keeping me up at night. But then her gaze met mine, cold, detached, almost amused. Dinner began with laughter and shared stories. The table overflowed with food, yet I could barely taste a thing. I watched Claire as she poured herself another glass of wine, her mood growing lighter with each sip. Her laughter rang through the room, exaggerated, forced. I could tell she was enjoying herself, but not in the way a wife should at a dinner prepared by her husband. And then it happened. "My husband," she said, raising her glass with a smirk, "the man who can fix anything, except a dull bedroom." Silence crashed over the table like a tidal wave. My stomach twisted into knots as my grip tightened around my fork. Jake cleared his throat uncomfortably. My sister-in-law's eyes widened. My father-in-law coughed, shifting awkwardly in his seat. Claire simply laughed, swirling the wine in her glass. "Oh, come on, don't look so serious. It's just a joke." But it wasn't a joke. It was an execution. Heat rushed to my face, shame burning through me like wildfire. I forced a tight-lipped smile, swallowing the lump of anger rising in my throat. I had spent years treating Claire like a queen, only for her to humiliate me in front of everyone we knew. Something inside me cracked. The love I had so desperately clung to fractured, revealing something sharper underneath. If Claire thought she could make a fool out of me, she was about to learn a lesson she'd never forget. That night, long after the guests had left and the house had settled into silence, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Claire slept beside me, breathing evenly, her body turned away as if I didn't exist. The humiliation from dinner still burned deep in my chest. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard her voice mocking me, the laughter of our family and friends echoing in my head. I had spent years loving this woman, sacrificing for her, building a life with her. And how did she repay me? By making me a joke in my own home. My mind raced with questions I didn't want to answer. Had she been this cruel all along? Had I been blind to the signs? Or was this just the final stage of a marriage that had been rotting from the inside out? Then, at the edge of my consciousness, I noticed something, Claire stirring beside me. Not in the way of a woman reaching for her husband in the middle of the night, but something else entirely. The soft glow of her phone illuminated her face, and I saw it. The faintest of smiles. She was texting someone. My pulse spiked. My breath hitched. I turned my head slightly, feigning sleep, angling just enough to see the screen. A name I didn't recognize. Ryan. Claire's fingers moved quickly, her lips parting slightly as she read his replies. Then, like a final dagger to my heart, she typed, "I miss you too. Can't wait to see you again." The world around me tilted. I had suspected for months that something was off, but this was confirmation. Claire wasn't just distant. She wasn't just cold. She was cheating. I felt my nails dig into my palm beneath the covers, but I stayed still. My body screamed at me to react, to grab her phone, to demand answers, to make her feel the same humiliation she had inflicted on me. But I didn't. Because I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. Instead, I planned my next move. Claire eventually put her phone away and drifted off, unaware that her little secret was no longer hidden. As she slept soundly, I carefully slid out of bed and walked to the kitchen, my mind sharpening with every step. I had options. I could confront her. I could beg for honesty. But what good would that do? Claire had already proven she had no respect for me. No, I needed something better. I needed proof. Over the next few days, I played the role of the clueless husband perfectly. I kissed Claire goodbye when she left for work. I complimented her dress choices. I even laughed at her jokes. But beneath it all, I was watching. Calculating. I installed a small GPS tracker in her car, one she'd never noticed. A simple, discreet device that would tell me exactly where she went when she wasn't home. Then, I hacked into our phone record. I pulled up Claire's calls, her texts. Ryan wasn't the only name. There were others, Mike, James, Chris. Each with timestamps that stretched back months. My stomach churned, but I didn't break. Instead, I followed the breadcrumbs, tracking Claire's movements like a hunter stalking his prey. Then, on a crisp November afternoon, I hit the jackpot. Claire had made a reservation at a hotel downtown. A private suite. 4-2. I stared at the confirmation email she had carelessly left open on our shared laptop, my heart beating in my throat. It was one thing to suspect. It was another to know. And now I knew. But Claire had no idea that when she arrived at that hotel, she wouldn't just be meeting Ryan. She'd be meeting me too. And she would finally understand what it meant to be humiliated. The day of Claire's secret rendezvous arrived, crisp with the bite of late November air. I had planned every step with surgical precision, making sure no detail was left to chance. Today wasn't just about catching her, it was about teaching her a lesson she'd never forget. That morning, she kissed me on the cheek before leaving. The nerve of her. I played along, forcing a smile. "Have a great day," I murmured, pretending not to notice the extra effort she'd put into her appearance. Hair curled, perfume just a little stronger than usual, lips painted a shade of red she hadn't worn for me in months. I waited exactly 15 minutes before checking the tracker. Claire's car had taken a predictable route at first, toward her office, but then, right before downtown, she veered off. My blood simmered as the blinking dot settled at a high-end boutique hotel. She had no idea I was already ahead of her. Instead of rushing over like a man desperate to confront his cheating wife, I took my time. A call to the hotel secured me access to a room just down the hall from hers. Another call, to a private investigator I had hired earlier in the week, ensured I'd have visual proof. This wasn't going to be some screaming match in a lobby. No, Claire's betrayal deserved a grand reveal. By the time I arrived, she was already in the suite. Room 1203. Ryan wasn't there yet, but I knew he would be soon. Claire was nothing if not punctual for her sins. Sliding into my own room, I logged into my laptop, connecting to the discreet camera the investigator had set up outside their suite. The footage showed Claire pacing, checking her phone every few seconds. Nervous. Excited. Disgust boiled in my stomach, but I swallowed it down. I needed to be patient. Then, a knock at her door. The moment of truth. Ryan stepped into view, a man I had never met but instantly despised. Tall, athletic, the kind of guy who probably thought loyalty was a joke. Claire greeted him with a coy smile, tugging him inside before the door clicked shut. My hands clenched into fists. Enough waiting. I grabbed the spare keycard, acquired through a well-placed bribe to hotel staff, and strode down the hall. My pulse pounded in my ears, but my mind remained razor-sharp. I swiped the card. The door unlocked. And then, I walked into the room like I owned the place. Claire's gasp cut through the air. She scrambled off the bed, barely covered by the silk sheets. Ryan shot up beside her, eyes wide, caught in the act. I let the silence stretch, savoring the way Claire's face drained of color. "Well," I said finally, voice calm, measured. "This is cozy." Claire's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Ryan, to his credit, didn't bolt immediately. Maybe he thought I'd throw a punch. Maybe he assumed I'd rage. But I wasn't here for that. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. With a few taps, I cast the live footage from my laptop onto the hotel TV. Claire's eyes flicked to the screen. And there she was, caught from the moment she let Ryan inside. The angle was clear, undeniable. A choked sound left her lips. "You thought I was stupid," I continued, voice steady. "You thought you could humiliate me at Thanksgiving, lie to my face, sneak off to hotels, and I wouldn't notice?" She clutched the sheet to her chest. I can explain." "No," I cut her off. "You can't." Ryan, finally grasping the weight of the situation, grabbed his clothes. "I didn't know she was married, man." I laughed, cold and sharp. "Save it. I don't care about you. You're nothing." He hesitated, then bolted, leaving Claire alone with me. She reached for me, desperation clouding her eyes. "Please, let's talk about this." I stepped back. "Talk? Like you talked about me at Thanksgiving? Like you talked to Ryan when you thought I was asleep?" Tears welled in her eyes. "It was a mistake. I was just feeling neglected." I scoffed. "Neglected? That's rich. I was the one trying to fix things while you were busy spreading your legs for strangers." Her face crumbled. I could have yelled. I could have begged for answers. But I didn't need them. I had already won. Turning for the door, I paused just once. "Happy Thanksgiving, Claire. Nothing to be thankful for in bed, right?" Then I walked out, leaving her to drown in the wreckage of her own making. The cold air outside the hotel hit me like a slap, but I welcomed it. Each step I took away from that room, from Claire, from the betrayal that had shattered everything, felt lighter. The weight that had been pressing down on my chest for months finally lifted. I wasn't the fool anymore. I climbed into my car, gripping the steering wheel, but I didn't drive off immediately. My hands trembled, not with anger, but with adrenaline. The confrontation had gone exactly as planned, yet something inside me still felt raw, exposed. I had spent years building a life with Claire, trusting her, loving her, believing she was my partner in everything. And in the end, I had been nothing more than a joke to her. But now, the joke was on her. Before I left, I had made sure the hotel staff knew what had happened. I slipped a generous tip to the manager, ensuring that Claire's little escapade would become the kind of gossip that spread like wildfire. She wouldn't be able to walk into that hotel again without whispers following her, without eyes full of judgment. And that was just the beginning. I pulled out my phone and opened the email I had drafted earlier. With a deep breath, I hit send. Attached to that email was every bit of proof I had gathered, screenshots of her messages, call logs, the footage from the hotel room. I sent it to her friends, her family, and most importantly, her employer. Claire worked for a company that prided itself on integrity, and I knew for a fact that workplace affairs were grounds for termination. She wasn't just going to lose me. She was going to lose everything. A buzzing sound pulled me from my thoughts. My phone lit up, "Claire." I ignored the call. Seconds later, a message popped up. "Please, let's talk. I made a mistake. I love you." I almost laughed. Love? If Claire had loved me, she wouldn't have torn me down in front of our family. She wouldn't have betrayed me over and over again. A second message followed. "I'll do anything. Please, just come back." I stared at the words for a long moment, then typed out a response. "You already did enough. Goodbye, Claire." And with that, I blocked her number. As I drove away, I didn't look back. The life I had built with Claire was gone, but I didn't mourn it. Instead, I looked forward to something better. Because for the first time in a long time, I was free.